Dasa Vrindavanam Vande Krishna Dasa Prabhum Tata Chanavatar Chaitanya-lila Vistar Kadino Yo Nityananda Parabja Karunare Nabushito Vyakta Chano Burachincho Vavande Vyasalupino Shri Guru Gaur Gandharva Govindascha Ganaisaha Jayanti Patakaschacha Sarvesham Gurunartino. So we're continuing with our morning reading, discussion of Sri Chaitanya-charitamrita. And we finished yesterday hearing how Advaita-acharya inaugurated a grand Sankirtan at his home and expressing, beautiful mood of ecstasy and love. So we'll continue, pick up from verse 118. Etabali-acharya nande koden nartan prare karachi-acharya koilo sankirtan. So speaking, Advaita-acharya performed congregational chanting with great pleasure for 3 hours that night and danced all the time. Prema utkanta prabhur nahi Krishna sangha virahe badilo prema jvala taranga. When Advaita-acharya danced in that way, Lord Chaitanya felt ecstatic love for Krishna. And because of his separation, the waves and flames of love increased. Vyakul hoye Prabhu bhumite podila, gosai deki acharya nitya sambadila. Being agitated by the ecstasy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu suddenly fell to the ground. Seeing this, Advaita-acharya stopped dancing. Prabhu antar mukunda jane balo mate, pave sajisha pada lagila agaite. When Mukunda saw the ecstasy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he understood the feelings of the Lord and began to sing many stanzas, augmenting the force of the Lord's ecstasy. Acharya utailo Prabhu ke korite nartan, pada shuni Prabhu anganajai dharam. Advaita-acharya raised the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to help him dance, but the Lord, after hearing the stanzas sung by Mukunda, could not be held due to his bodily symptoms. Ashukampa pulak sweda gadgad vachan, kane ute kane pade kane karodan. Tears fell from his eyes and his whole body trembled. His bodily hair stood on end, he perspired heavily, and his words faltered. Sometimes he stood, and sometimes he fell, and sometimes he cried. Aha prana priya Śachī, kina hoilo more, kanu prema vishe mor, tanu manjore. Mukunda sang, my dear intimate friend, what has not happened to me? Due to the effects of the poison of love for Krishna, my body and mind have been severely afflicted. Rachidine poreman soyastina pao, jaha gere kanu pao, taha udi jao. My feeling is like this, my mind burns day and night, and I can get no rest. If there were some place I could go to meet Krishna, I would immediately fly there. Epadagai mukunda madur suswade, shuniya prabhu chitantare vidare. This stanza was sung by Mukunda in a very sweet voice. But as soon as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this stanza, his mind went to pieces. Nirvedvishadharsha chapalya garvadonya prabhur sahita juda korebhava sonya. The transcendental ecstatic symptoms of disappointment, moroseness, pleasure, restlessness, pride, and humility all began to fight like soldiers within the Lord. Jar jar hoilo Prabhu, bhaver prahade, bhumite podilo swasa nahiko sharire. The entire body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to totter due to the onslaught of various ecstatic symptoms. As a result, he immediately fell to the ground and his breathing almost stopped. Dekiya chindita hoila jata bhakta gan, achambite ute Prabhu koriya garjan. Upon seeing the condition of the Lord, all the devotees became very anxious. Then suddenly the Lord got up and began to make thundering sounds. Bol bol bole nache anande vival, buja na jai bhav taranga prabal. Upon standing up, the Lord said, "Go on speaking, go on speaking." Thus he began to dance, overwhelmed with pleasure. No one could understand the strong waves of this ecstasy. Nityananda sange bhule prabhu ke dodhiya, acharya haridas bhule pacheto nachiya. Lord Nityananda began to walk with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to see that he would not fall. And Advaita Acharya and Haridas Thakur followed them dancing. Himata prahadeka nache prabhu range, kabu harsha kabu vishad bhave tarange. In this way the Lord danced for at least 3 hours. Sometimes the symptoms of ecstasy were visible, including pleasure, moroseness, and many other waves of ecstatic emotional love. Tin din upavase koriya bhojan, udandar nityata prabhu hoilo parishram. The Lord had been fasting for 3 days, and after that period he took eatables sumptuously. Thus when he danced and jumped high, he became a little fatigued. Tabutona jane shram prema vishta hoya Nityananda Mahaprabhu ke rakilo dodiya. Being fully absorbed in love of Godhead, he would not understand his fatigue. But Nityananda Prabhu, catching him, stopped his dancing. Acharya Gosai tobe rakilo kirtan, nana seva kodi Prabhu ke korailo shayan. Although the Lord was fatigued, Nityananda Prabhu kept him steady by holding him. At that time, Advaita Acharya suspended the chanting and, by rendering various services to the Lord, made him lie down to take rest. Emata dashtin bhojan kirtan, ekarupe kori kore prabhur sevan. For 10 continuous days, Advaita Acharya held feasting and chanting in the evening. He served the Lord in this way without any change. Prabhate Acharya Ratna dolai chadaya, Bhaktagan sange aila Śachī mata loya. In the morning, Chandrasekhar seated Śachī mata in a palanquin and brought her from her house with many devotees. Nadia nagader log Shri balak ridda, sab lok aila hoilo sangata samridda. In this way, all the people of the town of Nadia, including all women, boys, and old men, came there. Thus the crowd increased. Pratakritya kori kore nam sankirtan, Śachī mata loya aila dvaita bhavam. In the morning, after regular duties were completed and the Lord was chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the people accompanied Śachī mata to the house of Advaita Acharya. Śachī age bodhila prabhu dandavata hoya, kandite lagila Śachī kole utaya. As soon as Mother Śachī appeared on the scene, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell before her like a stick. Mother Śachī began to cry, taking the Lord on her lap. Dohar darshane duhe hoila vival, Krishna dekiya Śachī hoila vikal. Upon seeing each other, they both became overwhelmed. Seeing the Lord's head without hair, Mother Śachī became greatly agitated. Angamuche mukha chumbe kore nirikan, tekite na payashru borilo noyam. Out of love, she began to caress the body of the Lord. Sometimes she kissed his face and tried to observe him carefully. But because her eyes were filled with tears, she could not see. My God. Out of love, she began to caress the body of the Lord. Sometimes she kissed her face and tried to observe him carefully, but because her eyes were filled with tears, she could not see. Kandiya kohin Śachī bachare nimai, Vishwarup samna koriho nitorai. Understanding that Lord Chaitanya had accepted the renounced order of life, Śachī Mata, crying, said to the Lord, "My darling Nimai, do not be cruel like Vishwarup, your elder brother." Because when Mahaprabhu's older brother Vishwarup left home, he just left and that was it. Just left suddenly, no warning, no call home, check-in, that was it, disappeared forever. And we hear later that he actually passed away. He didn't live so long in the world. While he was in South India, he left. But now she's worried, right? Her first son takes sannyas, leaves home. She never hears from him again. Now her baby, her darling, Nimai, he's also taken sannyas. Is it going to be the same? He's just going to cut off all contact. Saying, please don't be like that. Don't be so cruel. Be compassionate upon your mother, poor old mother. It's interesting, in the Vedic culture, there's actually a tradition to take permission from your mother, right, before you take sannyas. We talked about that, right? And Shankaracharya, he played that trick on his mother to get her to give permission, because otherwise, When Gurudev gave me saffron, I heard beforehand he asked some of his attendants, did her mother give permission? And then he said, it's okay, we can do it. But he was thinking about her, Thought that was very sweet. So after Mother Śachī continued, after accepting the renounced order, Vishwarup never again gave me audience. If you do like him, that will certainly be the death of me. And that time also when he gave me saffron, he was really expressing a lot of affection for Divyashari, for my mother. And he was saying, I will go to London, but I will not go to the temple. But I will go to Divyashari's house. And he was asking, how many rooms are there? How many bathrooms? This is how affectionate Srila Govinda Maharaj is, Gurudev. Gurudev had this way of making you feel cared for. Even if you weren't directly in communication, or directly in his presence, he would say things, that you would hear about and like that. And then you feel that comfort. Oh, he really cares. He really loves me, I remember one time I left and, when you were part of the servitor group, you didn't get smiles and pats on the head all the time, right? Gurudev could just not see you, or seems like he not respond, And I remember once I had to leave for some time, India, and I had to go back to England for a few months, and it was very difficult for me, very painful, and I went and said goodbye, and he didn't make any response. Maybe he nodded his head a little or something, and then I'm leaving, feel oh man, and but then when I landed, I received some messages from the devotees, and they told me, after you left, Gurudev was asking, what time is your flight? What time did you arrive? And is she okay? He could be very, very personal like that. And he reassuring you. He'd have a way to reassure you. That when I first came to live there, it was very special because he was asking Madhusudan Mahananda Prabhu if my room was okay. It was like he was personally asking about my room. I was like, wow, my room is ready, you know. And Gurudev is like dealing with thousands of disciples, you know. So that was like, wow, like he was really showing like, oh, you're part of the family and like that, you know. He would have these ways. And when I was in Calcutta, I used to clean his room like in the afternoon. When he would go out for some different errands and visiting people almost every afternoon, and I would go in and clean. And sometimes he might make some comment like if I put some flower vase and he would, not to me, but he would say to others. Sometimes he would be funny like that. Like he wouldn't tell you, but he would tell other people, and then you'd hear about it, you know. So like he might make some, oh, it is very beautiful there, you know, it's done so nicely. Isha Bandhu told me this story the other day, just like last week when I spoke to him. He told me how once he had like a nice donation, like I think it might have been $10,000 or something. It was like a nice donation, and he came in and gave it to Gurudev, and Gurudev, you know, accepted it, you know, with appreciation. But it was like kind of a very understated exchange. Like Gurudev just accepted it quietly, but then later on, Ishabandhu found out that like just before he'd come in, I don't know if it was like just the moments before, but it was that same day, like not long before he came in to make the offering, Gurudev had been in need of money, and it's the exact amount that he brought. Like it was for some project going on. Gurudev was low on funds, and he was expressing some concern, like, oh, how will I get this money? I need this money. And Ishabandhu Prabhu just came in with that exact amount that he needed. And Gurudev didn't say anything, you know, just accepts it. And then later on, like when Ishabandhu wasn't there, Gurudev was like praising him, like to the devotees, like, oh, and like it is like saying how it's so mystical, and he's done this valuable service, and like praising him and expressing so much appreciation for this donation. But he didn't say it directly. So Ishabandhu was like hearing from other people, Gurudev said this about you, Gurudev said this, you know. But he didn't say it to him. Which is funny. It makes it like sweeter in a way. Okay, we'll read a little more. Kandiya bolen Prabhu, shuno mor hai, tomar shadir hai, mor kichu nai. The Lord replied, my dear mother, please hear. This body belongs to you. I do not possess anything. Tomar palita deho, janma toma hoite, koti janme tomarina napari shonite. This body was raised by you, and it comes from you. I cannot repay this debt even in millions of births. Janivana jani koiro jajapi sanyas, tatapi tomare kabo nahibo udas. Knowingly or unknowingly, I've accepted this pronounced order. Still, I shall never be indifferent to you. Tumi jaha kahami, tai rohibo, tumi jayagya koro seto koribo. My dear mother, wherever you ask me to stay, I shall stay, and whatever you order, I shall execute. Itaboli puna puna kore namaskar, tushto hoya kore bar bar. Saying this, the Lord offered obeisances to his mother again and again. And Mother Śachī, being pleased, took him again and again on her lap. Tobeto ailoya acharya gela biantare. Tobe ailoya acharya gela biantar. Bhaktagan milite Prabhu hoila satvar. Then Advaita Acharya took Mother Śachī within the heart, within the house, within the heart. And Advaita Acharya took Mother Śachī within the house. The Lord was immediately ready to meet all the devotees. Ek ek milila Prabhu sab bhaktagam sabarmukha deki kore drida lingan. The Lord met all the devotees one after the other, and looking at everyone's face individually, he embraced them tightly. Krishna dekiya bhakta jajapi pai duk sandarja dekite tabo pai mahasuk. Although the devotees were unhappy at not seeing the Lord's hair, they nonetheless derived great happiness from seeing his beauty. Shivasramai Vidyanidhi Gadadhar Gangadas Vakrishvar Murari Shuklambar Buddhimantaka Nandan Sridhar Vijay Vasudev Damodar Mukunda Sanjay Kotanam Loiva Jata Navadipa Vasi Sabademi Lila Prabhu Kripa Jishte Hasi. Shivas, Ramai, Vidyanidhi, Gadadhar, Gangadas, Vakreshwar, Murari, Shuklambar, Buddhimanta Khan, Nandan, Sridhar, Vijay, Vasudev, Damodar, Mukunda, Sanjay, and all the others, however many I can mention. Indeed, all the inhabitants of Navadvip arrived there, and the Lord met them with smiles and glances of mercy. The Lord met them with smiles and glances of mercy. Kripa drishti, that expression. Kripa drishti, eye of mercy, glance of mercy. Ananena choye sobe boli hari hari, acharya mandir hoilo, Shivaikuntha puri. Everyone was dancing the holy names of Hari. Everyone was chanting the holy names of Hari and dancing. In this way, the domicile, it's a fancy word for home, Latin, of Advaita Acharya was converted into Sri Vaikuntha Puri. Jatalo kailo Mahāprabhu ke dekite, nanagram hoite arnamadvipa hoite. People came to see Mahāprabhu from various other villages nearby, as well as Navadvip. Sabakare vasadilo bhakshanapan bahudina charja gosai koilo samadam. To everyone who came to see the Lord from villages nearby, especially from Navadvip, Advaita Acharya gave residential quarters, as well as all kinds of eatables for many days. Indeed, he properly adjusted everything. Acharya Gosaya Banda Akshay Havyay Jata Dravya Vai Kore Tata Dravya Hoy. The supplies of Advaita Acharya were inexhaustible and indestructible. As many goods and commodities as he used, just as many again appeared. Seidin hoite Śachī koren randan, Bhaktagan loye Prabhu koren bhojan. From the day Śachī Mata arrived at the house of Advaita Acharya, she took charge of the cooking. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dined in the company of all the devotees. Dine Acharya Priti Prabhur Darshan, Racha Lok Deke Prabhu Nartan Kirtan. All the people who came there during the day saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the friendly behavior of Advaita Acharya. At night, they had the opportunity to see the Lord's dancing and hear his chanting. Kirtan Godite Prabhu Sarva Bhava Doy, Tambakam Papula Kashtu Gangana Praloy. When the Lord performed kirtan, he manifested all kinds of transcendental symptoms. He appeared stunned and trembling. His hair stood on end and his voice faltered. There were tears and devastation. Kone kone pore Prabhu achara kaya, deki Śachī mata kohe rodan koriya. Frequently the Lord would tumble to the ground. Seeing this, Mother Śachī would cry, Turna hoilo enovaso nimai kalevar, ha ha kori Vishnu pashe magaye bar. Srimati Śachī Mata thought that the body of Nimai was being smashed when he fell down so. She cried, alas, and petitioned Lord Vishnu. Balyakal hoite tomar de koilu sevan, tare fo mone deho narayan. My dear Lord, kindly bestow this benediction as a result of whatever service I have rendered unto you from my childhood. Je kale nimai pode, dadani upade, yatta jena nahi lage nimai shodire. Whenever Nimai falls to the surface of the earth, please do not let him feel any pain. Emata Śachī Devi Vatsalye Vival, Harsha boy doinya bhabe hoilo vikal. When Mother Śachī was thus overwhelmed in maternal love for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, she became transformed with happiness, fear, and humility, as well as bodily symptoms. These verses indicate, I went to the purport here. These verses indicate that Mother Śachī, born in the family of Nilambar Chakravarti, used to worship Lord Vishnu even before her marriage. Shiva Sari Jata Prabhu Vipra Bhakta Gan Prabhu ke Bikadite Hoilo Sabakar Man. Since Advaita Acharya was giving alms and food to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the other devotees headed by Srivas Thakur also desired to give him alms and invite him for lunch. Shuni Śachī Sabakare Korilo Minati Nimaye Darashana Mui Pabokoti. Hearing these proposals made by other devotees of the Lord, Mother Śachī said to the devotees, how many times shall I get the chance to see Nimai again? Tumasabasane hobe anya chamilan muiya abagine mache darashan. Śachī Mata submitted, as far as you are concerned, you can meet Nimai many times somewhere else. But what is the possibility of my ever meeting him again? I shall have to remain at home. And the sannyasi never returns to his home. Javadacharya grihe nimai avastan mui bikka nimo sabha kare magodan. Mother Śachī appealed to all the devotees to give her this charity. As long as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained at the house of Advaita Acharya, only she would supply him food. Shuni Bhaktagan kohe kori namaskar mata jaicha se samata sabar. Hearing this appeal from Mother Śachī, all the devotees offered obeisances and said, we all agree to whatever Mother Śachī desires. Matar vyagrata deki prabhur vyagraman bhaktagane kacha kori bolila vachan. When Mahaprabhu saw his mother's great eagerness, he became a little agitated. He therefore assembled all the devotees present and spoke to them. Tumasa bharagya vina cholilam vrindavan jaite nadilo vigna koilo nivartan. Mahaprabhu informed them all, without your order, I tried to go to Vrindavan. There was some obstacle, however, and I had to return. Jajapi sahasami koriachi sanyas tatapi tomasama hoite nahi bohudas. My dear friends, although I have suddenly accepted this renounced order, I still know that I shall never be indifferent to you. Tomasab nacharibo javatami jiba, matare tavatami charite nanibo. My dear friend, as long as I remain manifest, I shall never give you up, nor shall I be able to give up my mother. Sanyasir dharmanahe sanyas kodiya, nija janmastane rohe kutumbaloya. After accepting sannyas, it is not the duty of a sannyasi to remain at his birthplace, encircled by relatives. Keho jena e boli, nakore nindan, se jukti kahajate, rohe dui dharma. Make some arrangement so that I may not leave you, and at the same time people may not blame me for remaining with relatives after taking sannyas. Shuniya prabore madhur vachan, Śachī pa shachajari korilo gaman. After hearing Lord Chaitanya's statement, all the devotees headed by Advaita Acharya approached Mother Śachī. Prabhu Vedantare sakal kahilo, Shuni Śachī jaganmata kohite lagilo. When they submitted Lord Chaitanya's statement, Mother Śachī, who is the mother of the universe, began to speak. Teho jadi haurohe tobe mor sukh, tar ninda hoy jadi seho mor dukh. Śachī Mata said, it will be a great happiness for me if Nimai stays here. But at the same time, if someone blames him, it will be my great unhappiness. Tate jukti balo mor mane loy, nila chole rohe jadi dui karja hoy. Mother Śachī said, this consideration is good. In my opinion, if Nimai remains at Jagannath Puri, oh dear me. We'll deal with it later. It's okay. Just leave. In my opinion, if Nimai remains at Jagannath Puri, he may not leave any one of us, and at the same time can remain aloof as a sannyasi. Thus both purposes are fulfilled. Nila chole navadipe jena dui gor, lo katagati varta pabo nirantar. Since Jagannath Puri and Navadvip are intimately related, as if they were two rooms in the same house, people from Navadvip generally go to Jagannath Puri, and those in Jagannath Puri go to Navadvip. This going and coming will help carry news of Lord Chaitanya. In this way, I will be able to get news of him. Tumi sab korite par, gamanagaman, ganga snane kabu hobe taragaman. All you devotees will be able to come and go, and sometimes he may also come to take his bath in the Ganges. Apanar duk sukh ta nahi gani, tar jai sukh taha nija sukhamani. I do not care for my personal happiness or unhappiness, but only for his happiness. Indeed, I accept his happiness as my happiness. Shuni bhakta gantare korilostavam, vedagya jaiche mata tomar vachan. After hearing Śachī Mata, all the devotees offered her prayers and assured her that her order, like a Vedic injunction, could not be violated. Well, maybe we'll stop there for today. It's a good place to stop. I'll just read it, two more. Shuni bhakta gantare korilostavan vedagya jait. Oh, I already read that. And the next verse. All the devotees informed Lord Chaitanya of Śachī Mata's decision. Hearing it, the Lord became very pleased. So it's very beautiful and also instructive here. You know, Mahaprabhu's following the etiquette, right? He's following the etiquette of a sannyasi, right? That he won't return to his birthplace and keep some distance from his family. But at the same time, he's he's reciprocating with the love of his mother, right? And he's, she's choosing where he will stay, and he's following that. And as she's pointed out, Puri and Navadvip, they're very closely related, and the pilgrims are often going back and forth. So she'll get news. She won't be able to see him, but she can regularly get news of his well-being. So in this way, Mahaprabhu is reciprocating in a very deep way, with his mother's affection, but also observing the etiquette of a sannyasi, the customs of sannyas. So very beautiful example. Jai Sri Chaitanya-charitamrita ki jai, Shri Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Okay.